Thanks for joining, everybody. We'll get started in just a moment as the room fills up. Stand by. Again, thanks for joining. We'll get started in just a minute. We're waiting for the room to fill up here. Okay, I think we have a quorum. All right, well, thanks for joining, everybody. My name is Chris DeRozier. I'm the Director of Security Solutions Business Development here at Tech Data. Hopefully everybody can see and hear me okay, and you're having a good day today. So with me, I've got Brett Scott. Brett is the Director of Security Enablement and Training. Hello, Brett. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, Chris. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me today. So we've got a really interesting topic to cover today. It's the ISAO threat feed subscription that Tech Data offers you. And so Brett and I will be kind of going through, what that is and how you can monetize it and offer it to your clients. It's a pretty compelling solution, and I think you'll find a lot of value. So let me just advance the slide here. So today, just in terms of a quick agenda, we want to talk about, defining threat intelligence. Not everybody knows what that is. Why does it exist? Why was it created? Threat intelligence, the challenges that are out there that it hopes to solve, and then what ours is all about and how we can make that available to you. And then we'll wrap it up with some questions and enablement around that. This webinar series is actually part of a monthly webinar series. On May 13th, we will be discussing governance, risk, and compliance as a service. And so if you're looking to offer governance, risk, and compliance as a service, tune in on May 13th. Check your email box. It's email invitation. We'll bring that to you. So we've got about 45 minutes scheduled today. I'm hoping to get the content delivered in about 30 minutes. And then we've got about 15 or 10 minutes or so to take some questions. If you do have questions, we've got Steve Curtis and whoever's not talking between Brett and myself manning the chat box. So feel free to drop your questions into the chat box, and we'll do our best to get to those. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Brett. I'll be advancing the slides, and we'll do our best to try to stay in sync. So away you go, Brett.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Well, threat intelligence is absolutely on everyone's lips this year. We saw with the SolarWinds breach and then the many, many subsequent breaches that have been taking place that a lot of folks are saying, we really need to do something to change the game for us. And for many, that's adding threat intelligence so that they can see more of what's happening on their network. Now, threat intelligence came into existence primarily because of the fact that when you collaborate with others, you gain a strategic advantage. And so think of threat intelligence as a mutual collaboration for defense, where attacks that hit someone can be identified and attackers can be pointed out. That information can be shared. And so if your organization hasn't been attacked by them, then yet you can prevent that attack because you're already aware that they are a threat. But I would have to say to you that there are many challenges going into this, right? So one of the things that people and computers don't do terribly well together historically is share information and then make it actionable. And so most of the challenges around threat intelligence have to do with the veracity or usefulness of the information, the timeliness of that information, and then of course the ability to get it into your systems before your data, maybe log retention, etc., is lost. And then of course there are many different types of threat intelligence. So which parts of it do you even use? Now we actually have another thing that talks a little bit about this, but the key here to an effective ISAO data feed is to be able to use automation as much as possible. So I think the next slide we have does it best. We want to be able to pull in attack data. We need to be able to refine it, enrich it, etc. We need to be able to allow the people that are consuming that threat feed to identify what is relevant to them and nothing else. In other words, when there are 10 million attacks, but really only 500 affected you, you don't need to hear about all the attacks that aren't relevant to you. And then the other thing is, where are your eyes? How far can you see? Is your detection network truly global in its ability to see and hear what's going on? So, I talked a little bit earlier about the timeliness of threat intelligence, and that's probably the most crucial component of what threat intelligence feeds you should choose. Because if, for example, if you're getting email on a Friday about an attack that occurred the previous Monday, and your people don't read that for a week or two, then they analyze it and then they pump it into your systems maybe 3 or 4 weeks after the original attack, you might not even be retaining the data logs that would have identified that that attacker also attacked you, might even still be there. And so that's really, really a big challenge. And so timeliness, again, emphasized, is very, very important. And then, of course, you want to be able to ingest that information automatically. Instead of humans pulling it off of an email and hopefully typing it correctly into your systems, you want to make sure you got that done well. When you do that, you give yourself the opportunity to leverage orchestration, and ultimately, you will be able to recover huge time and speed your utilization of that intelligence, making your team more effective and having to deal with less useless noise. So our ISAO, the Tech Data ISAO threat feed, is a members only collaboration. And one of the nice things about ours is we allow you to share attack data that's hitting your organization. It's then pushed up, analyzed, anonymized, and so forth and so on. And it's neat in that you send and you consume essentially using the same protocols, which allows us to work with just about every single security device that's out there. And to make all of that happen quickly, it is leveraging many different supercomputers working together as one big system to refine and process all information. And we'll kind of talk about how that happens next. So in its most basic form, we have acquisition of data comes in. We want to make sure that we can receive it all and process it. Then we're going to go through an analytics process where we're going to enrich and refine. We're going to remove who was attacked so that you don't have the embarrassment of we're the ones suffering this problem. But then all of the attacker data and all the infrastructure data is shared with you so that you can use the attack to then warn yourselves about what's going on. And then finally, being able to define what your data set is, what's relevant to your organization, and then pulling that information automatically is super critical. So our two primary protocols are syslog and STIX-TAXI. The majority of people use syslog. So we're going to take those feeds, they're going to send it up into a scalable cloud that will immediately deattribute who the victim is. It's automated, so no humans will ever see that. That then passes over to an enrichment cloud, if you will, where it's going to look up all of the infrastructure data related to the attacker and the attack, if you will. And then there is a system that will then try to reduce false positives. As we know, security devices get very noisy and they don't necessarily report stuff that's actually an attack. And then one of the critical elements here is that we have a correlation engine on our side. So you might see 1 or 2 attacks from, say, an IP address, and that would normally fall well below the radar. But we have the ability, by seeing as many clients as we do, to say, wow, that IP address attacked everybody that it talked to and all of the people in our group. That's a pretty bad attacker. So that would elevate what would normally be something that falls below the noise back above that into the signal level, and you'd be able to react to that. And of course, that data, after all of that refinement, is pumped directly back into your SIEM or your next generation firewalls. Now, the ability to customize your threat intelligence, the best way to describe the value of that, 90% of an analyst's time is determining from the data that they receive what part of it is relevant to them. And that includes all of the things that you see here as far as the types of data that's there, but also, for example, if the attacker is attacking an IoT infrastructure and you don't even have any IoT, it's superfluous to your organization to be worried about an IoT level attacker. So the ability to define and refine all of the things that might be relevant to your organization, if your analyst is spending 90% of their time doing that, you could essentially recover nearly all of that 90% of that analyst's time, because you can prescribe, if you will, the stuff that's relevant to you. That's the only data that comes your way. So you're going to also be able to do a lot of things that will be related to Homeland Security type designations. We follow it very closely, but we've added some of our own areas based on large customers that we have. But essentially, the ability to define what are the types of things that are relevant to you, and that includes all the way down to the zip code if necessary for geography. You have the ability to truly, truly tune down the types of information that come your way. So this is a screenshot of one of the panels in our threat intelligence configuration portal. And this one here is talking about types of attacks. So there are a little over 50 different types of attacks that we track and classify. And so this is where you could identify things that either are or are not relevant to you. So for example, if you're not concerned about advertising being access to your organization, you would uncheck that box, and then none of the things that are identified as advertising would even be a part of your data feed. Whereas authorization, you might say, gosh, we don't want people brute forcing our accounts or trying to do account takeovers. So that is relevant to us. You would check that box. So the ability to do this kind of tweaking, and you can see there are many other panel areas that are there that allow you to absolutely refine down to a highly detailed level the types of data that make its way to you from this gigantic series of clouds that we have receiving a ton of information. Now, this is the part where it actually gets much more interesting, because Chris, who is a very good guy at business, is going to be able to talk a lot about how we monetize this and make a lot of money. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Chris.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, thanks, Brett. So we've had a few questions pop into the Q&A session, and thanks, Brett, for going over kind of the setup and how it works. It's super interesting, and I think there's a lot of unique capabilities around the service relative to other offers. So what I wanted to do now is, so if you're a business owner or you're a channel partner of Tech Data and you're looking at this, the next question is, hey, how do I monetize this, right? How can I make money? Who do I go after? What do the partner profiles look like? What kind of technologies do they need to have installed? Things along those lines. So we're going to talk about that. So let's dive right into that. And first is customer types. I think one of the panelists, one of the Q&A came in about verticals and or customer types. And so on the screen, this would be them, right? And any of your customers out there that have kind of a security operations center with security teams would be a great target. State and local governments. We've got in Arizona, we have some local governments that are consuming this and having complete situational awareness, or as much as they can, based on what's happening in their space in terms of military, or I should say government. Colleges and universities, utilities, power plants, electrical and water plants need to be aware of this. Technology manufacturers, MSSPs, excellent target. So if you have a managed security service that you want to enhance internally, maybe you are reselling a third-party SOC as a service and you want to kind of piggyback this as an option onto that service. When I think about offering managed services to your customers out there, there's often this idea of kind of good, better, best in terms of offers. This could be a step up or even an a la carte offer as you look to offer managed services in terms of a threat subscription or a threat feed service. So very, 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 very powerful out there. So the other question is, when you start to think about, okay, Chris, thanks for telling me and reminding me about the customer types that are out there and the verticals that they're in, I think healthcare as well. But what are some of the technologies that are readily accepting this type of threat feed that all of a sudden get super smart, right? Much smarter by having situational awareness. And on the left are some popular SIMs out there. Some Tech Data distributes and some we don't, but this service is independent of that. And on the right are next generation firewalls, some of the biggest brands in the business. And so as a Tech Data channel partner, when you start to think in your mind about, who has these installed in their environment and who might make a good target, this would be those types of technologies that would make great targets inside of those previously mentioned customer types. So Tech Data is not finished with this whole idea of delivering value to our channel partners. If you think about making the systems smarter, the next step is, how do I make the people smarter? How do I make the SOC analysts that are using these next generation firewalls smarter? How do I give them the experiences to simulate attacks, right? And so that's what these solutions are all about. Tech Data, our own brick and mortar cyber range is available to be able to offer that. So I see I'm running out of time. I need to speed this up and wrap it up pretty quick, but we've got some great solutions that offer SOC analyst training, et cetera. When I think about how this service is consumed, I think it's best to think of it as similar to like an entertainment subscription. So Hulu, Netflix, it's not software as a service delivering an interface and offering a business compute. It's it's not on-prem. It's a subscription, and so this is actually designed so that we offer it to you and set you up with administrative credentials. We have staff involved here at Tech Data that can kind of hold your hand and get you established and started. We'll do a small test case to make sure we have end-to-end connectivity, and then large data sets start to flow virtually immediately. You see it as quick as 5 seconds, and you could start to throttle that for whatever you need. So pretty helpful. Okay, so how is it priced? That's the other kind of question we get a lot as well. And I like to talk about pricing in terms of competitive solutions. So this particular service from Tech Data, our ISAO threat feed service, by the way, ISAO means Internet Sharing and Analysis Organization, set up by the federal government by executive order in 2013. So there's a sense of power associated to it in terms of its overall architecture. But back to pricing. Pricing is best understood within the context, I think, of competitive solutions. Most of the solutions for threat feed that are out there are from well-known commercial vendors, right? Cisco, IBM, Fortinet, Checkpoint, all great threat feed services. They deliver their solution in different ways, but the MSRP generally on those types of solutions is between $75 and maybe $150,000 a year for a subscription for kind of a curated threat feed experience. Tech Data is about 10% of that figure, right? So and I like to kind of suggest the idea that where there's mystery, there is margin, in the sense that not everybody knows that threat feed services aren't, in six-figure range. And so when you have a cost basis that's roughly 10% of that, that gives you an opportunity to resell it at significant gross profit. So really, really worth investigating, a pricing model to see what this looks like. So very, very powerful. And I would encourage you to inquire about, once you find a partner, we can help you sell this as well. So we can help articulate the value and provide additional support as necessary. We'll talk about that in just a moment about where you get support. So, what is the value of this service to your customers? And I think Brett did a good job earlier talking about, kind of today's reality, right? With competitive threat feed services that are out there. Some of those services are, CSV files in Excel, right? You got to download it in email, as Brett said. You got to upload it to your security control system, whether it be a SIM or a firewall. And a lot of that's one way to go about it. Another technique SOC analysts use, if you didn't know, is Google, right? Which we all know that, anything on the internet is quote unquote true, right? And so sometimes I think Google researched threats and kind of sources of those threats may or may not be. They're always as good as this information provided on the other side, right? Who writes that analysis. And so there's a risk there, I think. And the other component is the affordability, right? As I mentioned, 1/10 the cost of competitive solutions. So very, very good capabilities around that. I think larger shops see even greater benefit because larger shops, frankly, are already kind of investing in security. Larger security operations centers are investing in security. They've got a lot going on already, but I think this is allows them to even see even more threats that are coming against them. Um, so the idea of saving this last bullet point, saving customers a lot of time. If you've never stood up a security information and event manager or SIM before, they can take a while to normalize the noise, right, and standardize things. And so there's a tuning process. And what this does is it ingests them with some baseline information very quickly to understand what to care about. And so in that sense, it makes them more effective and much quicker in terms of that effectiveness. So pretty helpful. So while I have your ear, I wanted to let you know that Tech Data is very committed to cybersecurity. As you kind of think about this threat feed service and how it might fit into your business. Also, I wanted to make you aware that Tech Data can deliver the threat feed service in addition to many of the services I'm showing you today. So if you don't have these capabilities, we can provide white label opportunities for these types of services. I've got a whole team of sellers that specialize in not only offering support and sales around threat feed, ISAO threat feed, but also the services on the screen today. If you are a partner of Tech Data and you already have these services, sometimes we can kind of help round things out or provide kind of bursting or overflow. We have a lot of our partners in the channel that use us for exactly that. They've got more work than they can handle, which is indicative of the state of the market right now. Incident response, emergency response, and digital forensics is a popular one. We're starting to see a lot of attacks these days. So, anyways, so that's available as well. And then let's say you're kind of looking at the threat feed service within the context of your overall business, and maybe you're ready for it. Maybe you want to advance and kind of explore it a little deeper, or maybe not. Maybe you're still considering, kind of rounding out your security business. Tech Data announced about a year ago our digital security practice builder program with a ton of content. We have senior consultants that have been delivering security guidance for partners for a number of years. And so we decided to digitally record all that content, make all those artifacts, PowerPoints, data sheets available. And this is a free offer for Tech Data partners. You simply need to hit that website at the bottom and create your account, answer a few questions, and you'll be provided with a lot of access. And this includes managed service best practices as well. And if you have sales reps that you need to educate and bring up to speed a little bit on selling security, that'll be found in the execution course on the far right. So lots to talk about. I could talk about digital practice builder all day, but very, very powerful. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, and we will wrap up today's presentation, is our interactive line card for security and analytics. So we call it the Solutions Product Inventory Tool. You can see the URL at the bottom there, the link. What's nice about this is instead of just kind of having a static line card where, we sell vendor X and they offer Y, what this does is allow you to search by category or subcategory first. So if you wanted to know, for example, what does Tech Data offer globally, right? And this could be the UK, Venezuela, the United States. You would simply select the country, select security, and then as the main category, and then select your category, right? So endpoint security or data security or cloud security. What are the vendors and solutions around that? There'll be a little kind of go button. You'll click on that, and then you'll be presented with all the details around that collection of capabilities and vendors and services, including an email and phone number on where to get a quote. So a nice tool for global view on all of that. So often, these can come kind of fast and furious. These types of presentations. I wanted to let you know that you do have access to these resources: the Practice Builder, the Spy Tool. Our external website is great as well at techdata.com/security. I think it's a nice kind of overall vision on what we offer. And then our cyber range, we didn't talk a lot about the cyber range today, but we do have a brick and mortar training facility, the Tech Data Cyber Range. And if you had any questions on any of this, I encourage you to kind of take a screenshot right now and reach out to security services at techdata.com. This is a whole business development team that's dedicated to security that can answer many of these questions. There's an 800 number there as well. You can have a chat with them and kind of explore any of this. They're happy to help you, explore any of these things that we discussed today. So I think that wraps it up in terms of the formal presentation. And maybe we have a few questions. So Steve Curtis, if you're out there, I think you've been in the background monitoring.
Yes, Chris, we got some great questions. So can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great, Steve.
Yeah, great. James from Arizona is asking, would a client need a SIM solution to make the most of the ISO membership, or can other security devices benefit as well? If so, what types of devices?
Yeah. Thanks, James. James, I appreciate the question. Yeah, absolutely. They not necessarily need a SIM per se to make the most of it. I think the SIM and a next generation firewall are the two basic categories of products that are capable of receiving this information and being, all of a sudden smart, right, about what the attacks are that are happening out there. And so earlier I flashed a slide up there that talked about, well-known SIMs and next generation firewall devices, appliances, or even cloud instances that can be made a lot smarter on that. So I'm happy to review that, or you can reach out to security services to get, a copy of this presentation. So Thanks for the question, James.
Yep. Yeah. Here's another one from William in Missouri. In terms of what type of pre-sale support does Tech Data have in place for partners selling this type of service?
Great question. Yeah. So the pre-sale support for this service, as well as the other services that I shared earlier on that one slide, we have a dedicated sales team that handles the entire North American channel. And they are a professional services and a managed services sales organization. And that includes this subscription service as well. So they are trained for this. They've been doing this for quite a while, a number of years now. We've got processes in place and protocols in place. We have a very strong capability to deliver statements of work and quotes around all of these services. So very mature model, and they're all reachable through the number on the screen and the email on the screen. So
great. One last question. In terms of ISO offerings and from other providers, how is this different?
Great question. Yeah, Brett, I'm going to let you answer that if you want to come off mute. So the question, just to repeat, is how is the ISAO threat feed distributed from Tech Data different from other competitive solutions that are out there?
Yeah, so the bottom line is the ability to customize the data that comes to you. So essentially, you can pre-analyze what's relevant to your organization, and then that's only the data that you receive. And that takes what would normally be an ocean of data, and it gets you the stream of information that's relative to you. And that is something that the industry is moving towards. We're kind of there now. But for example, Stratison has a threat intelligence feed. Again, they're curating it for you. But what's unique about that is they're also pumping it directly into those next generation devices or SIMs. So the industry is moving in the direction where we're standing at the moment. But that is the future because it's so inefficient right now. And so the inefficiency gain is the reason why you do it. The effectiveness is the value of it.
Awesome, thanks. And then I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge one of the questions that came in on the Q&A board, where somebody asked, "Hey, has Tech Data stood up their own SIM?" Right? And there were some contradictory answers, and I wanted to just be clear on that because I answered one and then Brett answered one that seemed to contradict what I had said, and I wanted to clarify that. So the cyber range is where Brett kind of spends most of his time. And in his world, he in fact responds that, yes, we have multiple SIMs set up and they are used to display the integration of the Tech Data ISAO threat feed service. So that could all be done virtually. We can demo that for anybody that wants to see what it looks like within the context of a SIM. So he's correct on that. My answer was that we have not. And frankly, that's just the fact that I didn't know that Brett had set it up in the cyber range as definitively as he had set it up. I thought there was a different instance of that. So just straight up error on my part. Want to be transparent about that. But the good news is the error works out great for you folks that are tuning in today because we do in fact have it stood up. It is ready to go from a demo perspective. We do have the right sales folks in play to help you see that demo, access that demo, and get it in front of your prospects and clients. So just wanted to be upfront about that. All right, Steve, I'm thinking we're done, or did you have any others that were out there?
Yes, I think that's about it for the time and questions, but thank you for responding.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up then. Last call for any more questions. Let's see. Got it. Oh, there was one more question. Let's just do this one. Does the membership auto renew at the end of the contract? And the answer to that is it does not. In that sense, in the sense that the entertainment subscriptions, Netflix and Hulu, they're pretty good about that. This particular service is not automatically renewal. There is a manual process in terms of putting something in your calendar and kind of reaching out 90 days in advance to give folks an opportunity to get it into the renewal budget. I would say the one thing I wanted to point out is it's typically not sold month to month either. So as a potential reseller of this service, you would bill upfront on the beginning of a 12-month period and collect the gross margin associated with that right at the very beginning. So it's kind of a one and done for 12 months, and then you would come back 12 months later for a renewal on that. So hopefully that helps add some clarity around that. All right, so with that, then I think we'll wrap it up today. Brett, thank you so much for co-hosting with me. I hope this was interesting to the attendees today. Steve, thank you for manning the Q&A, and be on the lookout in your email. Reach out to Security Services for the webinar coming up on May 13th for governance, risk, and compliance as a service on a white label basis. We're happy to help you get through that. So we'll call it a day. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.